You are listening to the Pull List Podcast with Chris Poirier and Hector Miray, part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks on. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me Obi-Wan. Act like you know me, son.
Greetings, true believers, and welcome to episode 64 of the Pull List Podcast. That's right, we're back. 2021 has officially set sail, and we are kicking the front door in on 2022. And we're excited, like SWAT team just coming through. We're excited to talk about comics, our love of comics, the writing of comics, the things they apply to our lives. But we are excited to be here on the Pull List Podcast on the Love Thy Nerd Network, your bi-weekly show for comics, pop culture, and faith. My name is Hector Miray, and I am your host for the day, stepping in for Chris Poirier, who has a case of the cooties. And his voice is not doing well, and he needed a day off from recording, and we just didn't want to wait any longer, and we will miss him. But today we are also super blessed because we have a extraordinary person that I'm just a big fan of that has a passion for comics, for faith, for community. Today we are joined by Todd Turner. Say hi, Todd.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Todd is probably the most prolific collector of comics in the LTN community, but also he is the artist and creator at Mosaic Fan Art, where he turns the art and just beauty of comics into stained glass. And I said that I've mentioned this before, one of my favorite things you ever said in just talking with you, and I think you said it in a podcast we did before, but you just said the glass is forgiving. And that's been like every time I look at glass stuff now, I'm like, the glass is forgiving. It's just like mysterious. It's some Rorschach stuff. So
the truth, man.
It's the truth. And, as I'm watching you make I've got a friend who is a Venom fan, and you were making a Venom thing the other day, and I showed it to him, and I said that like I was the watcher over his shoulder as he was looking at my phone. I was like, the glass is forgiving. And he's just like, ooh, that gave me chills.
That's Jeffrey Wright right there, man. That was a good imitation.
So we have Todd Turner here, and Todd is, we've wanted Todd to be a part of the Pull List Podcast for a hot minute, and we're excited that it's happening today. So we're going to jump right in. There's a lot of comics that have come out through December and January of the last couple months. So we're going to look at today our top 6 comic books for the last 2 months, just from December and January. And we're also going to talk about who our favorite writer is right now, who our favorite artist, and any just gem moments of going on our comic book journey. So Todd, let's just jump in. Tell me just give me 2 of your favorite books over the last 2 months.
Well, I had said this to someone before that I'm so glad Fear State is over, because I don't know, it just drug on. Fear State, Future State, all the states. However, in the aftermath of Fear State, and A-Day, or Arkham Asylum was destroyed or whatever, there's now Arkham Tower in the middle of Gotham. And in the pages of Detective Comics, I've honestly never read. I've read Detective. I've collected it. I just collect it because I have a problem. But I feel like I have to be a completist. But all the Batman books are killing me. But the Detective comic run right now, they're in the middle of a 12-issue run inside of the book about basically the rise and fall of Gotham Tower. And the biggest problem is that it's weekly, so it can get pretty pricey when you're paying $3.99 or $4.99 for a book. But the story is it is the whole entire Bat family minus Batman, because Batman is gone, and it's them trying to figure out, they got all these villains in downtown Gotham, and they're all so chill and so calm. At one point, Mr. Freeze is going to get an iced latte. I just thought that was sort of funny. But you just know it's all going to fall apart. They have a plant inside as a patient, who is Huntress, and Catwoman is like undercover as a therapist. I'm really enjoying it. Have you read any of that?
I am reading it, and I also really enjoy it. Huntress is not my favorite Bat Family person, but man, she's near the top because when she's done well, and especially too, like if you go back to the 90s or even Tom King's stuff with when he did maybe it wasn't Robin, maybe it's Robin Eternal, but it was one of those things, Batman and Robin Eternal. It was one of those books that was a 52 arc run or whatever. Anytime you back up on Huntress's stuff, she has as much spiritual content as Nightcrawler, depending on his writing. Gotcha. And if you back it up, like you can get like full gospel presentations through her stuff. Doing like one of my favorite Huntress books is, because it's also a question book. There's back when they did Final Crisis, there was a book called Final Crisis Revelations, and it's Renee Montoya as the question.
Gotcha.
And Huntress fighting the spiritual battles that broke out of Final Crisis, and where the Spectre is God's manifestation of vengeance.
Oh yeah.
There is a other side of it that is a physical manifestation of God's grace. Oh. And it's those two. It's the question and Huntress protecting the physical manifestation of God's grace from Vandal Savage, who is now Cain from the Bible. And it's just like,
oh man.
Yeah. And it's just like, there's so much dope stuff, but yeah. And so
sounds like something Tom King would write.
Yeah. Well, this isn't even Tom King though. This is like maybe Grant Morrison or something, or Greg Rucka.
Wow.
Yeah. It's maybe 10, 15 years old. But I picked that book up, all of the detective books, simply because it had a Huntress cover. Like, I didn't even know what was going on. It's just like, oh, I got a Huntress cover, and I was just like, oh, that's pretty. I'm gonna go with this. Because outside of like, unless I can tell the arc is gonna be hot garbage, I usually pick up detective anyway, because
you're like me, because you have a problem.
Yeah, it gives you a nice reprieve from the slave drum of having to stay on the Batman storyline. Because you barely get a moment to breathe and tell good stories in Batman if it's not timed out well. So yeah, I've been picking up.
This actually feels like a detective book for the first time in a long time. No, so it's really good watching Babs work from the chair, and of course, if you've gotten Batgirls, it's been a pretty cute little book too. It's fun. I suggest everybody get that, but that wasn't one of my lists. But anyway, yeah, I liked it. I'm not a big fan of the backup stories in a lot of these books. A lot of the DC books have little backup stories, but I really enjoy the backup story in this one. I just am waiting to see where it goes. It's a little creepy. It's sort of like the antithesis of a Robin. Like, what if one of the villains picked a ward? And this poor kid was first he's with the Scarecrow, and now he's with Penguin. So,
oh no,
yeah. So who knows? Yeah. So that was one. Another one. I'm just going to punch these out. These are the ones that are like coming out weekly. I fell off enjoying Spider-Man at the end of Nick Spencer's run. But this new Spider-Man, and I'm not a. Okay, for full disclosure, I dropped out of comic books in the early 90s.
Me too.
So, and
I dropped out when they did the Clone Saga.
Well, here we go. This is Clone Saga all over again, sorta. But I'm enjoying Amazing Spider-Man. But now it's coming out 3 times a month as well, so it gets pretty pricey too. But it's been really good. But the Peter Parker, he is like has been in intensive care. Ben Reilly's taken over, been run by this corporation called the Beyond Corp. Then, they're trying to get Peter well. And basically they do a 1 issue on Peter, the next issue on Ben Reilly. And the way the whole story has fallen together has been really good. I've enjoyed, they've had different creators, different writers, different artists, but they have a underlying theme that it seems fresh. And one of the last issues, the Black Cat is trying to get Peter back in shape to where he can be Spider-Man again, and she enlists Captain America, and they put him through the ringers. They act like they're robbing something, and Peter Parker has to stop them and everything. And so it was a really fun issue. So, and and the little backup stories that they have, they had a Black Cat Mary Jane issue that came out. It was fun. So I don't know. I like fun comics most of the time. Some of them that are really heavy hitting, I do enjoy, but I like them to be fun every once in a while too. And Spider-Man for me has been fun.
Hey everyone, I'm Hector Miray, and this is Faith and Fandom 180 on LTN Radio. So the new game, Pokemon Legends Arceus, has come out, and when I heard about it, saw that it was basically Breath of the Wild with Pokemon, I realized that if I only bought one copy, me and my 3 daughters would be fighting constantly to be able to get some Switch time with it. We have a regular Switch and a Switch Lite, which we all kind of just bounce around sharing whichever system is necessary, but I knew we were going to have to go ahead and make the decision to fork over the money for not just one copy of the game, but 2. Because at any given point, we needed to be able to have 2 systems be playing this game between the 4 of us. And it's worked out really well, because at our different times of being able to play, usually they overlap. But one of the biggest benefits that it's been is I have a 9-year-old that is still pretty new to adventure games of this size and depth. Like, Breath of the Wild and Pokemon Arceus are pretty flippin' huge in terms of adventure, combat, crafting, and stuff like that. So one of the best parts of this is that when my 9-year-old is playing and I'm playing, she can bring her Switch over to me and she'll say, okay, show me where you went on your map, and I can show her, or she'll sit and watch me and just literally kind of mimic what I'm doing. And y'all, when we are in a place where we are willing to make room and effort in our lives for other people to actually walk beside us, walk behind us, walk in front of us, when we are going to make a conscious effort to shape our lives to actually be able to be attached to by others, it makes a huge difference. There's this scripture in Amos 3:3 that says, "Do 2 walk together unless they've agreed to do so?" Y'all, we need to start leaving room in our lives for others to walk beside us. It makes a difference. Remember to catch Faith and Fandom 180 every Wednesday morning on the Back Row Morning Show, only on LTN Radio. And if you'd like to learn more about Faith and Fandom, head over to faithandfandom.org, where you can learn about our Comic-Con ministry, podcasts, memes, apparel, and book series. You can even read new chapters before they make it to the next book. I'm Hector Miray, and thank you for spending the last 180 seconds with me. So for me, this is one that it's pretty recent or close to the last 2. And this was just a whim. I think it's because normally you could. I don't know if you ever buy comics just off of covers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did a couple weeks ago. I wasn't at my local store, and I was like, "It's just going to pick up some random books." Nice.
I almost didn't buy this one because I didn't like the cover, but I liked the idea. It was like it was one of those, like, I'm definitely not buying the book for the cover. But the Devil's Reign Winter Soldier.
Oh.
I don't know if did you pick that one up?
Absolutely.
Is that in your list too? Okay.
No, it's an aside.
Yeah. Okay. I just really enjoyed that. I haven't been reading the Captain America books lately, and I haven't had a lot of Bucky interaction. And, but just the fact that they're tying that in, that he's willing to go take down, all this stuff just to be able to get his, some more info on his backstory, but also the idea of a sleepwalking Kingpin,
that's
slaughtering
spooky.
people. I'm like, there are people that when you think, because one of the ads that keeps popping up on true crime TV and stuff is like about a dude who murdered someone while sleepwalking and is at a justifiable defense and everything.
Oh, wow.
There's some ad, like a commercial that's popping up on all the true crime stuff is like, a guy basically stabbed someone 20 plus times. Because
this is for reals.
Yeah, this is for real. This is real life.
Crazy
someone
pants.
stabbed someone 20 times plus because he was sleepwalking and literally had zero memory of it doing it. So, when they lie detector him and everything else, he's like he's got nothing. And so the idea of Wilson Fisk sleepwalking and just laying waste to people is oh, that's really, really scary.
Yeah, I'm not doing a sleepover at Kingpin's house ever.
Kingpin's pajama party. That would honestly make. That would make. I'm just picturing some solid purple jammies.
Hawaiian shirt that he wears.
Hawaiian shirt. That's pretty dope too. I don't know if I was listening to an interview with D'Onofrio, and he actually has the Hawaiian shirt Kingpin comic panel as his desktop.
Nice.
Because he said he's had that picture as his desktop since Daredevil ended. And it's just
he didn't get an Emmy for that. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's just so good. Just sticking with, I'm just going by what's on top of my pile here. Another one that I really not surprisingly, but you never know when you get into number ones with stuff. But I really enjoyed She-Hulk #1. I thought that was just a really good book, and Jen Walters doesn't get a lot of credit, and they did a lot of really weird stuff to her in the last couple of years.
Oh gosh, yeah, it was terrible.
They just put her
the
through
Red She-Hulk they made her a Red Widow and everything in Avengers, and
it's just been a lot for that poor character to actually not have to be herself. And the idea of another strong woman just picking a fight because she wanted a friend and she wanted an interaction. And it's just and then literally at the end of it, she's like, I'm not calling the cops, but can we just talk about this and hang out rather than you just, I was it was really well written story. And it was just I really enjoyed how easily they put the interaction and the genuine moment of, I can't remember the lady she was punching.
Titania.
When, she's like, you'd hang out with me? We'd be friends? And it's just I was like, oh, look at you being touching. I appreciate that.
And at the end, she's like, are you okay? Do you need money? I mean, I can help you. Yeah, because in the comic book world, she's married to the Absorbing Man.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't you and Carl have a place somewhere or something like that? Yeah. The cool thing that I enjoyed about that book was, I mentioned this to my daughter, but the author, Rainbow Rowell, I don't know. I'm butchering her name. Wrote a lot of teen YA books that my daughter was just leaving that genre and had read a couple of her books. So when I mentioned that to my daughter that, hey, I like it. It's written by a lady. Her name's Rainbow. And she immediately knew who that author was. And I was shocked because I'd never heard of that before. But the whole thing with Jack of Hearts at the end, are we allowed to spoil things like this, or are we not supposed to?
Well, considering we're doing stuff from January, I think we're okay.
Yeah, you should have already known this. But actually, the Avengers Disassembled was with the Jack of Hearts blows up and kills Ant-Man and destroys the Vision, and that's what started the disassembling of the Avengers, and what that ushered in the Young Avengers and everything like that was the death of Jack of Hearts. So to see him show up, it's what? I'm interested to see where they go with that.
I also had zero idea who it was because I wasn't aware. I didn't recognize him. So I was just like, I was like, well, I'll figure this out. I'll get there.
Back in the 80s, they had a 4-issue miniseries, Jack of Hearts miniseries. And of course, I got it. So I had to read it. But yeah, that's a cool run too. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can go read it for free.
Oh, sweet. Right, so what are a couple more of your books?
Well, since you stole She-Hulk from me, I'm going to steal Nightwing from you.
No,
no, I won't. We'll just share Nightwing. How's that?
Share Nightwing. We can share She-Hulk. That's fine. So we can share She-Hulk too. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. Go ahead with Nightwing. That's cool.
Nightwing's my favorite book going. It just flat out is. Even when they forced the Fear State stuff in there, it was still so good. But you sent me a message saying Nightwing 88 was awesome or something like that. And I was like, I'm not home. I won't get my books for 2 weeks. I'm so far behind. And so it was like the first book I read when I got it. And I picked it up and I was like, man, this is great. My first comic book I ever received was New Teen Titans issue 1 in 1980, which is, Robin, Changeling, Cyborg, Starfire. I'm missing Raven. Yeah, I think that's the group. And to see them all show up with Nightwing in this last issue, it was so good.
I actually had that talk because you had told me that before that, you had a thing for that group. And, I was like, oh, he'll like this. But it was like, I think one of my favorite moments, he's like, cradle or piggyback. And it's just like,
yes. I saw you chose the piggyback.
And it's just one of those things. It's just like, it was beautiful. So like the Flash tells Nightwing he's got to carry or run away with him. He's like, do you want to be cradled or do you want to be piggybacked? And it's just like conversations you don't expect to have. And
the book is so well done. The relationship that he has with Barbara is explored so well. Just him having the dog. I mean, I can't remember the name of the dog now. Just for a long time, she didn't have Haley. I think her name's Haley. If I'm not mistaken, the dog. Just Nightwing having a dog is just so interesting. But I'm not very familiar with Blockbuster, which is, I guess, the main villain, because I really wasn't a big Nightwing fan. Matter of fact, I didn't start collecting Nightwing until Tom Taylor took over with like issue 78 or 81. I can't remember where it was, but
yeah. And honestly, that's not a bad place to start over. And even with I've been over cleaning up and organizing my house a little while, and I was collecting all of my books together because eventually they're going to go in storage in their appropriate slots and all that. And I put all of Nightwing together of Tom Taylor's run. I took the Fear State stuff out and set it aside, and I handed it to my daughters. And I was like, you'll enjoy this. Read this. Because my kids, when my daughters were younger, like I've got a 13-year-old who's about to turn 14 next week and an 11-year-old. And, I used to have to feel like it was my responsibility to expose them to good content. Like,
absolutely. 100%.
Here's your books. Here's your movies. Here's your video games. Here's the stuff you should be interested in. And my kids have listened well, but they are also at the point they don't need me for that anymore.
Oh, yeah.
My kids read more books a year than I've probably read in my life. And they find comics and anime and manga all on their own. Like, they're doing really great. And like, I was like, you're really going to like this. And so my older two kids burned through all of Tom Taylor's Nightwing stuff in like a day. Both of them did. And it was pretty cool. But no, it's just if this whole arc plays out well, because honestly, I'm waiting. Like, I literally have anticipation. Heartless, dude. I'm waiting on this villain. It's like the first. And some of the best, though, if you're ever scrolling back and you're looking for blockbuster content, there was somewhere around the early 2000s, right around the time that Red Hood became a character, like 2002, 2003. Judd Winnick did a Nightwing arc and through Green Arrow, and it was a thing where Blockbuster, the comic we're just talking about, like, was a problem for Green Arrow and Nightwing. And so you've got Nightwing and Green Arrow and some other folks taking them down, but it's just picture. I don't want to be that negative, but Blockbuster is basically just a knockoff of Wilson Fisk.
I knew that. You can tell that.
Yeah, and that there's not a lot more depth than that. He's a little more meta human, but yeah. So, what's your next one?
Well, I'm going to go off board and go with We Have Demons.
Good choice.
We 3 came out, and so there's 1, 2, and 3. And
I didn't know 3 was out. Fantastic. I need to check that.
That finishes the story arc, the first story arc, 3 issues. And granted, it's for the grown-ups. But the way it ends, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it is definitely, she finds her faith. And you come to find out that, more Halo, when good is together, more good comes. And I mean, as immature as it is, there is so much good material in that. And the art by Greg Capullo is just fantastic. So Scott Snyder, some of his stuff can really go off the rails. But this right here is, that and his Noctera are some really good stuff to catch up on. But We Have Demons on a Comixology original. It's free if you have Amazon Prime. I hope they print it, because I want a physical copy.
I will buy that all day. Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't read it yet. Because this is a digital exclusive that they're doing outside of the big things. I don't know if you saw, but Tom King released his first one like this week.
On Substack?
Yeah, on Substack.
Yeah.
But literally, all you have to do is sign up for their newsletter and you get the book free.
Oh, well, I can do that. But I'm terrible about checking my email, period, let alone for comic books.
But that's the thing, you actually have to check your email and do this. But if you go to Tom King's Substack website, which if you go to his socials, it's in there. But all you got to do is sign up for the newsletter and to get the comic free. Now, if you go the paid route, you get a lot more content. But I haven't read it yet. But I think it's Love Everlasting, or Everlasting Love is the title, one or the other.
Can you answer something for me? This might help anybody else out there who does digital comics. I have strayed away from digital comics all my life. I only love floppies. However, lately, I have reversed my opinion of digital comics. Me as an old guy with a genetic eye disease, I struggle to see it. And having them on a iPad, where I can zoom in, zoom out, double click, make the panels bigger. With this, you can do that through the Kindle app. But now with Substack, do you know if you can do that? Or is it just like a PDF and you just have to blow it up on your own?
I literally haven't even opened the email because I knew I had to get to it.
I got you.
But even on on the digital end too, I don't have a Kindle that I use right now.
Right. I just use my iPad.
I don't even have an iPad. I use my phone for my digital comics.
Yeah, I do that too.
But that's it's just, I got tired of carrying around a tablet when I'm using a MacBook all the time. But no, it's, We Have Demons looked dope. And I'm excited to read issue 3.
Yeah. So, jump in. Yeah, but it is definitely not for the kiddos.
But even I still feel like even though it's a not for the kiddos book, there's still a lot. Even just in the first 2 issues, there was a lot. So I'm gonna go with Human Target.
Oh yes.
Human Target, to me, if Nightwing is my favorite book, I love that one too. The Booster Gold one was dope. Human Target is Tom King back at his best. And like, because I loved everything I read of Tom King up until we got till some of the straggler issues of his Batman arc. But even the straggler issues weren't bad. But like, I really just didn't enjoy Rorschach, and I really didn't enjoy Adam Strange or Strange Adventures.
The best thing about Adam Strange was the one issue that focused on Mr. Terrific. That was, if you buy any book of that in the Adam Strange, I loved that one. Other than that, I agree with you.
That was the best character development we've seen of Mr. Terrific in forever. But Human Target has just all of the right charm, all of the good writing. Like I like thoroughly enjoy every issue. Now, I'm a fan of the Human Target. I know Human Target was a book back in the day as well, but I was a big fan of the TV show. There's a Fox TV show that was a lot more action packed. But it was coming right off the heels of Watchmen, and you had Jackie Earle Haley as one of the main characters.
Wow. That would have been cool.
And so there's only 2 seasons, and it also features, I don't remember her name, but she's a British actress, and she's in Doctor Who, and she's in Luther, and she's in basically every British show. But she played the classy British lady that's leading Chance's team. So he has a whole team network on the TV show. So like I loved the TV show for what it was. And so I was excited to see the book coming back, because if anybody can take a weird, obscure book property that's not getting any love and make something functional out of it, it's Tom King. They're not all old mines, but like this one is great. But I if you pick up issue, I don't even see the issue number on this, whatever the next, there we go. I don't know what issue
4.
Is. 4.
That's issue 4.
Okay.
That's the Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Issue 4 is the Blue Beetle issue, but then it literally has like them in a boss fight where they're actually saying the artist's name in the word bubble, and that just made me giggle.
Yes.
But Human Target has been if you like any kind of classic noir, if you like any kind of like 60s style detective, the story they're telling is a modern story, but it feels like it's from the 60s. And
it feels like it's sort of sweet. I mean, a lot of Tom King stuff is deconstructing. And I feel like he might be deconstructing the Justice League, where after it came off of Legends, where the Justice League became Justice League International, whatever. But I'm liking it. Absolutely.
And I feel like unless they tank really, really hard, this will be the best thing he's done since Mr. Miracle.
Mr. Miracle's fantastic.
But I really think this has the legs to do it. Other one I'm going to throw out as one of my favorites is May's book.
Jeff Lemire.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire stuff. Chris got on that ahead of me, and was talking about good. And it's like Jeff can be hit or miss for me, like just because his stuff is dark and deep, and like it hit me at a right time and a right place. But just a story chronicling a father's loss of his daughter, and what that did to him, and the fact that she would want him to live, and just actually doing it was really good storytelling, visually, script wise. It was just really good storytelling, and it's been one of the best books I've read, and I think it's done, like if I'm not mistaken, that you can, I think it ended with issue 5 or 6. But like you could pick the whole thing up in one fell swoop at this point, but I've enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I love Jeff Lemire. Like you said, he is hit or miss for me as well. He's got so many books out right now. It's like crazy.
It's crazy, and he just signed an exclusive with Image. So he's about to be He's going to have like the Jeff Lemire universe, the Jeff Lemire verse. Jeff Lemire. Which wouldn't be bad. Wouldn't be bad.
This week in nerdy news, this is LTNN. Before the pandemic, President Trump was doing his best to put an end to TikTok over privacy concerns with China. However, even though those concerns still are largely unaddressed, the power of the pandemic and our collective boredom cemented TikTok into our popular culture. In 2020, TikTok nearly doubled its user base, and by last September, it reached 1 billion monthly active users. And this huge growth isn't expected to slow down until 2024. At least for now, the future is TikTok. Snapchat and Facebook agree, as both have seen engagement with their stories features drop significantly. Snapchat recently reported that with the pandemic, they expected stories engagement to rise, but instead it fell dramatically. And since then, engagement with stories hasn't returned to pre-pandemic levels for the company. Facebook has desperately been trying to get their Instagram stories in front of more eyes, placing a featured spot for them on the front page of our Facebook feeds, even though they require you to open Instagram to interact with them. Still, IG stories are mostly filled up with shared videos from TikTok. But with the 60-second limitation still in place for the Meta apps, less TikTok videos are now finding their way onto Meta's platforms. And even if they make it over in parts, the algorithm splits them up into incomplete chunks that leave viewers frustrated. Both Snapchat and Meta are working on ways to update their apps to be more in line with current trends. Time will only tell if they're able to cash in on the growth that TikTok is experiencing. That was This Week in Nerdy News. I'm Radio Matt, and this is LTNN.
What about you? What's a couple more you got?
Well, I've got one that is an image book that I don't know. It's not. I can't really say that I love it, but I can't say. But it's so intriguing, and I read it every time. It's one of the first ones I read. It's called Frontiersmen, it is basically the story of a old superhero who's up in a tree, saving this tree from being saving like a forest. It's like, but he keeps getting visited by his old enemies who are now not enemies. They've grown up. They've either changed or grown or like. Old partners, and it's just an interesting book. It does have some adult stuff in it as well, but the story is interesting. Like, why are these people wanting him out of the tree? I mean, the creator, I'm not familiar with him, but they do a good job writing in the back of the book about, we want to explore this in comics, and they are exploring different things in comics that aren't normally explored in comics, and it's a wraparound cover every time, which gets me.
Cool. Gotta love a good wraparound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with Wonder Woman Historia.
Okay.
That came out, I believe, in early December, and it's an oversized. It's one of those Black Label books. It is gorgeous. And it explores the basically the history of Wonder Woman. How did Wonder Woman come to be? The different female fighters and the children that they had. I say children, but I mean they're figuratively speaking. But the artwork is so good. I think it's going to be like a 3-issue oversized book. But it is something to look at just over and over and over again. And I'm not a huge Wonder Woman collector, but lately I've really enjoyed Wonder Girl. Even the Wonder Woman book has been good. And the only one I'm collecting other than Wonder Girl is this Wonder Woman Historia. So it's Wonder Woman Historia, the Amazons. Art's by Phil Jimenez, and it is just gorgeous.
Wonder Girl, for me, honestly, is just delightful. Like, it is, and I think that's been my favorite thing about her is just, all of Yara's stuff has been just like fun to read. I think literally the moment in the first issue that she gets or whatever, where she pulls a sword out of a dragon and says yoink. Like, I was like, all right, we're people, we're friends.
And she like calls her flying or Pegasus like Frank or George. I can't even remember the name of it, but it's like some, yeah.
it's
so
some
sweet.
Generic name. For me, I've only got one more because I think we shared one as well too. But Catwoman, Lonely City. Oh, by the way, just on the Wonder Woman note, dude, because I'm not sure where you were. Did you ever pick up Dead Earth?
Oh yeah, that was my book of the year when it came out.
That's what I thought. I thought we were there.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? She makes well, not a mace. My son told me the technical term, but yeah, with Superman's yeah, and yeah, that was sweet. Anyway,
so Catwoman, Lonely City. It's just a few issues into this thing. I don't know how much more is left. But, Selena Kyle gets out of prison. I guess she's 55 or close to 60 at this point. She gets out of prison and she went to prison for killing Batman. She didn't, but she went to prison for it. And now it's, following the years later of everybody's aged up a little bit and everything. And it's just her hiring a fat Killer Croc to be her sidekick and trying to reestablish herself in life and a full digital age and everything else. And it's kind of crazy lately how much we've been focusing on the aged out versions of our characters.
Absolutely.
Like Tom King's been beating it to death because he did it with did it in his Batman run. Now he's doing Batman and Catwoman, and we're getting all these things. We're getting our older versions, but like there's just so many really unique takes in it, and like I've enjoyed everything I've read with these. And one of the cool things, if you're into graphic design and clothing and stuff like that, they've turned the superheroes' imagery and catchphrases and stuff into classic clothing line stuff.
Oh, really?
So if like there's like a younger generation that's turned like Wonder Woman logos and stuff into like some really Gucci looking clothing and stuff. So it's just neat watching some of the fashion industry stuff. With that.
Yeah, I've seen those like purses, like literally, like I can't remember if it was Michael Kors or Gucci or Coach. It was Coach, I believe, did Wonder Woman purses last year for Christmas.
But and that's one of the elements that you see playing out in Catwoman Lonely City is there's like this young 20-something-year-old sneakerhead vibe where these people are making like designer clothing. So I love seeing the older character stuff, but my favorite thing, I literally out of Catwoman Lonely City, if I was to not buy it for any other reason, the most recent issue has a visit Poison Ivy, and the entirety of history, and to my knowledge, when we see Poison Ivy, she's slim, sleek.
Oh no!
And like that. Poison Ivy is a plus size woman in her older, but like she's not like it's not like they made her morbidly obese or anything. Gotcha. She's like
looks like a normal human being.
A normal human being. She's joyful.
Oh, good.
Like she literally, like in the pages she's on, she's like literally like glowing, and instead of doing crime and stuff, she's living a happy life. And instead of like trying to impact the world by being an eco-terrorist, she's like straight up helping with producing medicine and using the proceeds from that, like selling it legitimately to help make the world better. So she's she's living in like Latin America, wearing a like a cottony dress and just dancing around and enjoying life. And it's just like, this makes my heart happy. Like I was like, legitimately kidding. I saw that and it was like literally just made me joyful to see what they were doing with her. So like
it's interesting because Poison Ivy, I mean, literally in the last little bit story arcs that they've told, and I mean, if you go back in Deceased, she basically, Poison Ivy is the reason that humanity can still live on planet Earth. And if you, even in Fear State, she was going to be the one that tore down Gotham, but she chose not to. She's like, and yeah, it's good to see that she's treated like that.
But yes, like then you go back to Tom King's thing, like killed her in what was the mental health book?
I don't know.
One where they were getting therapy and the whole mental institute, like bunch of superheroes in crisis.
Oh yes, yeah,
so
Heroes in Crisis.
The Ivy that we see now is a baby Groot version of Ivy.
Gotcha.
Because they killed OG Ivy and regrew her out of a sapling or something.
Nice.
And
Nice.
so there's something recently where they actually reunited the portions of her or whatever. And it was just look crazy, but they haven't done a lot of good development with her as a character. In these few pages where you see an adult, happy, plus size Ivy is legitimately the best development I've seen of her as a character. It is only maybe 3 pages tops, but man, they're good pages.
Good. That's awesome.
All right, so those are my books. Those are my top for the year, for the past couple months so far. You personally, who's telling your favorite stories right now?
Oh, Tom Taylor. Easy. I've started picking up Superman, Son of Kal-El. There's going to be a Nightwing crossover, so
okay,
yeah, need to pick that up if you want it. He's doing Dark Ages. In Marvel, which is Marvel, it's his basically deceased, but Marvel, where there's no electricity on the entire planet, and the villains and heroes, like, it's really cool. In one issue, it's like, what do you do with this equipment that there's no electricity? Like, they've got a repurposed helicarrier, and well, how are you going to? The helicarrier is literally a big ship, and what they do is they use Storm to power the ship. They get humongous sails, and she produces so it's been really cool. He also, is doing 7 Secrets. I don't know if you've read that book from Boom Studios.
I've heard a lot about it. Chris was recommending it, and I've heard some good stuff.
It's really good. It's about 7 individual secrets, 7 carriers of those secrets, and protecting them to, and then of course he's doing the Dark Knights.
Steel.
Dark Knights of Steel. Yeah, the Knights of Steel, Dark Knights of Steel or whatever.
I'm really enjoying that one too.
Yeah, I ditto. And I just find that his stuff seems uplifting in most parts. I mean, granted, anybody can go when he does these books where where they're not in continuity. So, he kills whoever he wants to, but I enjoy it. Tom King is also, his Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow is fantastic. That's been my favorite Tom King book right now, and the art in it is gorgeous. I
was going to pick it up and trade because I've missed everything so far.
Well, and it is thick. It is a lot of reading. So it's not something you can just go, hey, flip through. Yeah. What about you? Who are you reading? Who's your fave?
Just because of Nightwing, I'm going to go with Tom Taylor too, as like probably my favorite. Tom King stuff too with Human Target is great. I really, it's over now, but man, like, I'm still reeling from Scotty Young's Be Love in the Dark. There was a short book, but like, just the storytelling in that was just really solid.
His storytelling's fantastic. His Strange Academy is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Strange Academy.
And so, like, those are ones that I'm looking forward to. And honestly, I haven't read it yet, but I'm really pumped to read Tom King's Substack book. Just because I've heard a lot of reviews of like, this is the book we needed, this is the book I was looking for, stuff like that. And on art, or like, so who's doing your favorite art, like just visuals right now?
That's a hard one. Really, my daughter's like, Dad, how do you collect a book? And I'm like, well, you can either collect a character, an artist, a writer, a story arc. I like Bill Jimenez. I tell you who I really like is the dude who drew Carmen and also drew a lot of the Joker. I can't pronounce his name right, but it's like Karen. I always want to call him Karen Gillan. I know that ain't right. Gillan March. Gillan March, I believe is his name. His art style is so good. I miss him not being on the Joker anymore. Yeah. But those are my favorites. What about you?
I'm down for all of those. I think my favorite art right now is the person who's doing Human Target.
Oh yeah, Smallwood. It's gorgeous. I was going to say him too.
Yeah, Greg Smallwood, man. I mean, that's just some gorgeous art, and like it's literally if you took the word bubbles off the pages and just looked at the panels, and just you could get a good story just from the visuals on the panels. So.
Is he doing colors too? Because the coloring in that, I know that the Catwoman book, everything is done by the same guy in the Catwoman book.
Yeah, the Catwoman book is all one person. Let me see, but like
it does say artist Greg Smallwood, so I'm assuming yes, he does colors. That's
just really dope too. Knowing how, like, I have a more eye-opened process about how much work goes into this after just working on one book for a little bit. So this is just like knowing the time that they put into this, and I'm just like, man, that's just nuts.
I struggle with some books where they use such a dark color palette, just because I struggle just seeing it, and being colorblind doesn't help either. So, there's the artist for Tom Taylor's book Seven Secrets, Danielle DeNiculio or whatever, that everybody loves. It's really hard for me to it's sort of got an anime style to it, but it's the colors, and it's the I believe she also does the art for We Only Find Them When They're Dead, which is an Al Ewing book.
Yeah, and that's like, that book is pretty, but man, like I couldn't stick with it.
I didn't either. I dropped off.
What's up, nerd? You digging this podcast? Well, the audio enjoyment doesn't end there. Visit LTNOnAir.com and make LTN Radio your new go-to for the best Christian rock, rap, pop, and indie, as well as our exclusive LTN shows and podcasts, some of which air on the station before they're available anywhere else. Visit LTNOnAir.com to listen now and find the link to our app. Now back to the show.
So before we go out today, is there like a single moment or a couple moments, just not even just the whole story, but just within the books, something that's just jumped out to you that's just been like, this was a beautiful reason to read a comic book?
Okay, I'm so glad that you told me that we were going to talk about this, because there's one book that came out in December that just a one-shot throwaway book. It's like, it was basically the future of Marvel Universe revealed. It was called Timeless. It's got Kang on the cover. Of course, they're pushing Kang, for obvious reasons. And it's a guy who follows Kang around. And they hint at things that are going to happen within the Marvel Universe. But the thing that got me was the final page. And it's just a little drawing that in this guy's journal that he flips, and it says, and why is this particular vision imprinted on my mind? And it is the Miracle Man logo, which I am a child of the 80s. Miracle Man was a book that Alan Moore wrote, and I believe Said or Toddlebean, who did Swamp Thing with him, drew, and it was like a modern Shazam, Captain Marvel. And Miracle Man had forgotten who he was, and he would have to say atomic backwards, Kimoda, in order to turn into himself. So he's like an overweight middle-aged man living his worst life, hates his job, he's struggling with his marriage. I mean, it was so depressing, only in the ways that Alan Moore can do it. And he sees it, and he says the words backwards because it's a reflection in a pool, and he turns back into Miracle Man for the first time in 30 years. And you come to find out that there used to be a whole entire Miracle Man family. Does it sound familiar? Oh, wow. And one of the kids never turned back into his alter identity. He stayed the hero, but he was evil.
Okay.
So he gets the they end up fighting. He gets him to turn back into a kid, and then he's left with the dilemma: do I kill this child in order for him not to turn back into this evil creature? Because the kid had never aged. So it had a lot. This was before Kingdom Come, which, you know, Billy Batson, if you read Kingdom Come, Luther had Billy Batson under his control. Yeah. But anyway, there, you know, I know Alan Moore's probably dying because he hates the commercialization of his properties anyway, but but just a hint that a Miracle Man is coming to Marvel, it was like, I was so excited, man. This was a comic book I collected by Eclipse Comics, which doesn't even exist anymore. Right. And Marvel bought the rights to them. They have put out them in trade. I think they call him Marvel Man now because they got sued. I don't know what happened. But anyway, that is my super stoked for what's going to happen. They also hint at Thanos having Thor's hammer with all of the Infinity Gems embedded into Mjolnir, and him also having the arm of his son. What's his son's name? Nave, whatever, who control the dead. So he's got all the Marvel zombies behind him. He's got Mjolnir and all the Infinity Stones. So,
yikes.
Yeah, yikes. I'm excited, but I'm a Marvel guy. That's so, you know, what about you, Hector? What about, was there something you were like, whoa?
It's not a whoa moment, but there was a moment that just kind of, like, kicked me really, really hard. Like, it was not a moment that I was, like, anticipating getting hit this hard. And it was, the Batman Catwoman annual.
Oh, it was was it the Christmas special?
All Christmas special, so I don't even know. Like every book's about Christmas.
That's right. Was this the book that basically was an homage to Jean-Paul Leon, who passed away?
Yes. Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. I have it downstairs. It's in my pile of shame.
So, there's some spoilers, so I'll leave that out.
You can tell me. I don't care.
Well, like the entire thing of Batman Catwoman has been, like Bruce is dead and it's following her story.
Right.
This finishes out her story.
Oh, good.
In some ways. But
some ways.
Yeah, like it's not the end of her you would want. You.
No, well, we've still got like 4 or 5 more issues of the book to go, so.
Yeah. But there's one point where she's there's just one moment where Selena is explaining to like maybe a 4-year-old Helena daughter about how Bruce's parents died. Like, I guess Batman.
Yes, I did read part of this.
He's on patrol or whatever, and she's explaining because they alternate Christmases of who's home with the kid, that somebody's still protecting the city, that whole thing.
Oh wow!
But there's a moment where like you don't hear the whole thing about how they died, but you hear her follow-up question. And so young, like toddler Helena says, "That's why Daddy gives me pearls every year for Christmas." I'm like, I heard that like legit. It's like y'all can't hear this watching it, but like see this watching it. But I straight got goosebumps just saying that.
I read that and I went, oh, I was like,
that hit me. That was just like that was not a great issue, like a life-changing issue to me. But like that one line kicked me in the throat.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Man, I've had so much fun talking to you, and I'm so grateful that you could take time to do this. And
yeah, absolutely.
And we look forward to you doing more pull listy things in the future as well.
Yeah, because I didn't even get to mention Moon Knight.
You want to mention Moon Knight real quick?
Oh no, I just threw it in there.
Okay. I've enjoyed Moon Knight a lot too. So we're going to wrap it up today for this episode, and thank you for joining us on your bi-weekly source of just love for comics and all things in this creative medium. You can always join in the conversation with Chris and Todd and I and all of our nerdy friends over at the Love Thy Nerd Discord. You can begin your geeky adventure there with us. And you head over to whatever platform you watch this, the website, Discord, wherever you listen to this at, and tell us what you liked, what you hated, anything we might have missed. And we'd love to hear your take on comics as well. We'd love to be able to share that, whether that's in the Love Thy Nerd community on Facebook, Discord, comments. We want to hear your voices as well on this. There's a channel on the Discord though, so you can head over there because all the cool kids are on Discord. Right, Todd?
I am on Discord. I'm the old grandpa.
I'm the cousin that shows up occasionally. But that is officially it for us here on the Pull List Podcast. Episode 64 is in the books and now in your ears, but we could not do this alone. As many of you know, we take this journey together with lots of amazing podcasts that are part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. So to be sure to visit lovethynerd.com for more info, previous episodes, and maybe find yourself a new show to add to your routine. But we want to thank you for listening today. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. Rate, review on all your podcasting apps of choice, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and many more. And remember, kids, read more comics.
Read more comics.
Better put the word out. Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks on. I cut handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me Obi-Wan. Act like you know me, son. Oh, it feels so good. 12-point power sword. Get up, going to use magic tricks on you, Conan O'Brien.
You've been listening to the Pull List Podcast with Chris Poirier and Hector Miray, part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. Be sure to rate and review the show and share on all the social media.